Romeo is a dog-faced delinquent who's in love with the princess of a rival gang. However, everything changes when he confesses to her, and she agrees to date him, but they have to smash in secret or risk an all-out war between the two sides. Everything starts in Daliot Academy, where a massive fight is about to break out between two rival gangs, the Black Dogs and the White Cats. Leading the Black Dogs is Romeo, and he rallies his men against the White Cats and their leader, Juliet, who for years has been Romeo's arch-nemesis and the woman who matched him in combat. However, before they get to fight this time, the White Cats prefects pop up and disband the fight, threatening to get everyone kicked out of school if they continue. After the two sides return to their bases, Romeo spends his time alone, frustrated over the fact that he has been fighting Juliet for years like he hated her, when in reality, he is fully in love with her. All this time he fought her was a way to ensure Juliet didn't get hurt in the hands of other men. In that moment, he considers confessing to her directly, thinking she will be rizzed by his Andrew Tate manliness. But knowing that he might fail, he decides to do some recon first. When he goes to spy on her, he finds her pissed that Romeo always looked down on her, which makes him think that he has no chance of winning her hearts. Just then, Juliet and her goons find some Black Dogs brat who vandalize their base, but out of her angel-like kindness, Juliet simply holds him and praises him for being brave. Then she tells him to go home, letting him leave without any consequences. Romeo falls in love even more, seeing how kind Juliet can be, even towards her enemies. Just then, Juliet and her goons notice him, demanding to know what his smooth-brained existence is doing there. Unable to face her and confess head-on, Romeo runs away, annoyed that he is such a coward. Meanwhile, some Black Cat goons, Tosa, Koitsuji, and their leader Chizuru, are targeting Juliet, and they believe that Romeo's methods no longer work on Juliet, so they decide to take matters into their own hands. Later, when Juliet is all alone, the goons attack her from behind, but while she manages to handle two of them, the third one, Chizuru, sprays pepper spray at her and get his men to hold her. Then, they shut her mouth, cut her clothes open, and mock her for being a weak, pathetic girl. Suddenly, Romeo pops up and tackles her to get her away from the goons. It confuses them why he saved her, but before they get to chase Romeo, other White Cats pop up, forcing them to retreat. During the escape, Romeo accidentally lands right on top of her sweet cherries, and he quickly backs off, not wanting his name to be put on a watch list. When he finally looks at her properly, he notices tears in her eyes and realizes that Juliet thinks that he was the one who attacked her. Before Romeo can explain anything, Juliet runs away from him, and he becomes convinced his chances with her are completely ruined. Later, Romeo returns to the Black Dog's dorm, only to be confronted by the attackers and they're about to question him. But Romeo cuts them off and gives them the 3-piece chicken nugget combo. While scolding them, Chizuru gets shot by an arrow, containing a note from Juliet, demanding that Romeo meet her in private. While nervous, Romeo finds Juliet already waiting for him with two swords in her hands. Then, Juliet asks whether Romeo saved her out of concern, or if he was simply pitying her weakness. Romeo knows he isn't ready to tell her that he loves her, but Juliet takes his silence as him pitying her, which she finds extremely humiliating. She then accuses him of never treating her seriously in battle, recalling how Romeo was holding back every time they fought. However, in reality, Romeo never saw her as weak, as he knew about Juliet's pressure as the only daughter of the royal family. He realizes now that constantly trying to protect her only hurts her pride instead of helping her, so this time, he decides to stop holding back and accept her challenge. He then grabs one of the swords, and Romeo fights with everything he has. But then, in the middle of their duel, Romeo blurts out that he loves Juliet, and it completely catches Juliet off guard. Romeo explains that the reason he always held back before was because he was in love with her and couldn't bring himself to hurt her seriously. He admits he wants to take every chance possible to stay by her side, and believes that with Juliet beside him, he can change the world they live in. Overwhelmed by his confession, Juliet shoves Romeo backward into the fountain, then calls him ridiculous for seriously believing he can change the world. But after seeing how sincere he is, Juliet finally gives in, and declares that she will support his dream as his girlfriend. Hearing the words he has always wanted to hear makes Romeo emotional to the point of tears, but Juliet quickly reminds him that their relationship absolutely must remain secret from everyone else, to which Romeo agrees. The following day, the usual rivalry between the Black Dogs and White Cats continues, with Romeo and Juliet once again leading their crew. However, while everyone look like they want to take each other's kidneys, Romeo can barely contain his happiness, looking like a fat chub in a buffet. During the fight, Romeo secretly pulls Juliet away from the others so they can finally spend some private time. But before he can enjoy the moment, the Black Dog's hottest baddie, Hasuke, pops up and ruins everything. To avoid suspicion, Romeo pretends to attack Juliet, and she gets pissed by how hard he grabs her, so she kicks him directly in the face before storming off, leaving Romeo unconscious. Later, while the White Cat girls are changing clothes, Juliet reflects on what happened earlier. Romeo's earlier words about wanting to spend time alone together linger in her mind, making her realize she once wanted that same kind of attention from her father, who is cold and distant to her. Suddenly, Romeo appears outside the window, apologizes for what happened earlier, and explains that he wanted to give her something important. Romeo reveals that he spent time secretly asking around about Juliet's Western traditions, and learned that giving a rosary to someone can symbolize romantic feelings, so he bought one for Juliet himself. Just as Romeo pulls out the rosary to give it to her, Scott suddenly appears hanging from the opposite window. Assuming Romeo is there to spy on Juliet while she changes, Scott immediately attacks him, which causes both of them to fall straight out the window. Sometime later, Romeo wakes up to find himself resting against Hasuki, and she explains that she stayed behind to watch over him while the others went after Juliet, believing she had pushed him out the window. Romeo quickly gets back up and runs off to find her. When he finally catches up to her, Juliet immediately tries to flee again, because a crowd of Black Dog boys is charging toward them. Romeo attempts to stop his doormates, but Scott and several White Cats jump him at the same time, causing another fight to break out. Frustrated by how impossible it is to give Juliet a simple present, Romeo finally snaps, and he accidentally crushes the rosary in his hand during the chaos. Seeing the broken gift completely crushes his spirit, so Romeo lifts a statue and starts rampaging through everyone nearby, sending both Black Dogs and White Cats flying without caring anymore. Later, as punishment for the destruction he caused, Romeo is forced to clean out weeds, and feeling defeated, he decides he might as well throw the broken rosary into the lake. But before he can toss it away, Juliet suddenly appears and stops him. Romeo apologizes for ruining the gift, but Juliet understands his intentions were sincere, so she invites him onto a small boat with her. While they drift across the lake, Juliet suddenly attacks Romeo's lower body, nearly making him lose consciousness from shock. However, she is only reaching into his pocket to retrieve the broken rosary pieces. Romeo tells her it is fine to throw the ruined gift away, but Juliet can clearly see how upset he really is despite his words, so she asks him to close his eyes, and Romeo immediately assumes she is about to give him her tongue twister 5000 on his lips, but instead, Juliet gently places her own rosary around his neck. She explains that it was an important gift from her mother, and now she wants Romeo to keep it as his lucky charm, as proof of her feelings for him. Romeo knows how valuable it is to her, and tries refusing, but it only annoys Juliet and ruins the mood. Romeo then desperately tries to cheer her up again, only to accidentally fall straight out of the boat into the water, and Juliet leaves him there, telling him to cool off. Days later, it's a day off and students head into town to enjoy themselves. Hasuke tries to invite Romeo to spend the day with her, but he refuses, explaining he already has plans with someone else. Moments later, Romeo's date arrives in the form of a cute boy, who probably won't last long in prison. And Hasuke briefly wonders whether Romeo actually likes creamy pickles instead of sweet cheeks. Unbeknownst to her, the sussy boy is actually Juliet in disguise, as previously Romeo gave her a disguise so they could walk around town together without attracting attention. Suddenly, Scott comes charging toward them, yelling Juliet's name after recognizing her scent, but when he gets closer, he is confused about where she is. Then, other Black Dogs show up and ask Romeo who the mysterious boy is, and Romeo introduces Juliet as Julio, his nephew. When the dudes look closely at Julio, they start getting flustered over how cute he looks, and more students gather around them, completely ruining Romeo's plan to secretly buy her a replacement rosary. Then, Romeo tries to guard Juliet from the others while they all argue over who gets to hang out with Julio, and some of the Black Dog girls casually mention that Romeo seems unusually cheerful lately. Curious, Juliet asks if that is true, and the girls explain that Romeo is normally grumpy and distant with people, which surprises Juliet and makes her realize she is seeing sides of him nobody else usually gets to see. Romeo later attempts to take Juliet somewhere romantic for lunch, but every fancy restaurant is full, forcing them to settle for ramen instead. During the meal, Juliet accidentally spills ramen on herself, and when Romeo tries to help clean it up, she instinctively punches him out of embarrassment. Afterward, Romeo brings her to a haunted house, hoping they can finally have some privacy. Instead, Juliet gets terrified by the zombies inside and punches both the actors and Romeo before sprinting away in panic. Then, Romeo searches everywhere for her, growing more depressed as he convinces himself the date has been a complete disaster. While he sulks near the ocean, Chizuru, Koitsuji, and Tosa happen to find him there. Wanting payback, Chizuru kicks Romeo into the sea, and knowing that Romeo cannot swim, Chizuru keeps shoving him deeper into the water while laughing. At that moment, Juliet appears and declares that Romeo is someone precious to her. When Chizuru starts teasing her about it, Juliet beats the brakes off this dingus. Later, Romeo apologizes for ruining their date, but Juliet disagrees, and explains that she only ran away earlier because the wig was making her scalp itch badly. Despite all the chaos, she says she genuinely enjoyed herself from trying ramen, wandering around town, and experiencing all these ordinary things together helped her understand Romeo better and see sides of him she never knew existed. Juliet shyly admits that she wants to go on another date with him someday, which deeply touches Romeo's heart. Suddenly, Scott pops up and catches them together. Panicking, Romeo immediately pretends to fight Juliet to avoid suspicion. It ends with Juliet punching Romeo in the face once again. A month later, Romeo is excited about their 1-month anniversary, so he asks Juliet if they can celebrate it in 3 days. Juliet immediately teases him for being overly sentimental about something as simple as dating her, but seeing that, Romeo thinks that she has no interest in celebrating, so he sulks and says he will just celebrate by himself. Seeing how disappointed he looks, Juliet gives in and agrees to spend the day with him for their anniversary. Just then, Romeo sees that everyone is gathered, and when he finds out why, he sees that the infamous violent princess of the West, Chartreux, has returned to school after being absent for over a year. In that moment, a luxurious carriage arrives on campus carrying Chartreux herself. With her annoying, douche-like attitude, she immediately orders every student to greet her within 3 minutes, and the white cats obediently roll out a carpet and gather around her like loyal servants. When she sees Scott, she demands he make her laugh, and warns him that if his humor is as bad as Adam Sandler, she will make a dude with a fat glizzy crack him. Scott nervously tries his best, but his joke falls flat, and Chartreux smacks him across the face instead, humiliating him in front of everyone. Juliet calmly steps forward to welcome her old friend, and Chartreux instantly treats her like a precious treasure. However, her mood changes when she notices the black dogs refusing to bow alongside everyone else, so she arrogantly orders them to kneel like. Romeo immediately gets irritated and charges toward her, ready to throw a punch, but before it lands, Chartreux reveals that she knows about his secret relationship with Juliet, stopping Romeo cold. Romeo tries to pretend he has no idea what she means, but Chartreux smugly shows a photograph showing him together with Juliet, and Romeo freezes in panic. To protect his relationship, Romeo is forced to accept Chartreux's deal to become her obedient pet or watch her expose the truth about him and Juliet. Delighted by her victory, Chartreux immediately abuses her power by publicly ordering Romeo to massage her while everyone watches. Everyone around them misunderstands his reaction, assuming he is stunned by Chartreux's figure, and Juliet looks on in pain while Romeo humiliates himself to protect their secret. Hasuki eventually slaps Romeo out of frustration, but the black dogs already begin questioning his loyalty. That evening, Juliet secretly meets with him after witnessing the humiliation ritual, and she asks if he actually prefers Chartreux's body over hers. Romeo awkwardly assures her that he loves her more, but before they can continue talking, Chartreux's whistle suddenly echoes through the area, forcing Romeo to leave Juliet immediately without explanation. Chartreux continues treating him like a servant, even making him carry her around. Whenever Romeo resists, she threatens him with the photograph again, forcing him to follow what she asks. As more black dogs witness Romeo acting obedient toward a white cat, rumors spread throughout the dorm that he has become a traitor, and Chizuru sees this as the perfect opportunity to turn everyone against him. Later, Romeo finally tries approaching Juliet to explain the situation, but before he can speak, the whistle sounds again, and this time, Chartreux orders him to hunt deer for her dinner. That night, Juliet waits for him in the garden, and when Romeo arrives bruised and exhausted from the hunt, the whistle rings yet again, and Juliet finally realizes the whistle is connected to everything happening to him. Demanding answers, she asks what Chartreux is doing to him, and Romeo can't reveal the truth, but he promises that he will explain someday and insists he is enduring all of this to protect her. Hearing that, Juliet chooses to trust him, and encourages him to fight back instead of surrendering, telling him she believes he is someone who never truly loses. Inspired by her words, Romeo decides to stop simply obeying Chartreux and instead search for a weakness he can exploit before their anniversary celebration arrives. Later, when Romeo returns to the black dog's dorm, he discovers all of his belongings thrown outside. Chizuru explains that the others originally wanted to beat him up for disgracing the dorm, but Hasuke convinced them to spare him, so they agreed that Romeo just have to sleep elsewhere. Despite losing his room, Romeo sincerely thanks Hasuke for helping him. Meanwhile, Chartreux's demands become even more ridiculous, where she makes Romeo massage her feet, feed her meals, and even show up solely to get beaten by hired thugs for her amusement. Though Romeo constantly wants to fight back, he restrains himself while continuing to search for any weakness she might have. At one moment, Romeo notices that whenever Juliet appears nearby, Chartreux suddenly changes character, so he asks Juliet about their history together. Juliet explains that Chartreux used to be her closest childhood friend, but after returning to school, something inside her changed completely. Suddenly, the whistle is blown again, but Juliet grabs Romeo before he can run off immediately and shows that she's jealous when he mentions Chartreux's name. But seeing that reaction only strengthens Romeo's resolve to uncover the truth before their anniversary. The next day, Romeo tricks Chartreux into going somewhere, while he sneaks into her room, searching for evidence against her. However, Chartreux predicts his plan and returns early, announcing that she knows he is hiding somewhere inside. She searches the room and suddenly runs toward a hidden chamber concealed behind a mirror. Romeo emerges from the secret room, which is filled with countless hidden pictures of Juliet. Romeo then confronts Chartreux and accuses her of being a creep towards Juliet, and when Chartreux denies it, he threatens to reveal the obsessive photo collection to the entire school. With that threat, Chartreux breaks down and admits the truth that Juliet was the only person she ever truly cherished, and seeing Juliet fall in love with someone like Romeo fills her with jealousy. Hearing her confession, Romeo begins to sympathize with her pain, but suddenly, Juliet herself knocks on their door. Panicking, Chartreux desperately tries to hide the evidence, and Romeo decides to help her, quickly cleaning the room and concealing the photographs before Juliet enters. Not suspecting anything, Juliet tells Chartreux she is heading to an important meeting, and Chartreux quietly becomes jealous again, knowing she's going to meet Romeo. But Juliet gently reassures her that she will always remain someone precious to her. Her words move Chartreux emotionally, and after Juliet leaves, Chartreux asks Romeo why he protected her secret. Romeo admits he understands how painful it feels to hide love you cannot confess openly, and Chartreux agrees to stop tormenting him after this, but still makes it clear she will never truly approve of his relationship with Juliet. Later that evening, Romeo finally meets Juliet for their anniversary celebration, and he notices that Juliet is wearing the repaired rosary he once gave her. Seeing her treasure the broken gift so dearly overwhelms Romeo with happiness. While watching from afar, Chartreux decides not to interfere with the two of them for now. Some days later, Hasuki gets ready for what she considers the ultimate enemy of her black dog's brothers and sisters, which are exams, and as they gather for their annual 3-day study marathon, Romeo arrives with Juliet disguised beside him. She questions why she has to come, and Romeo explains that since he won't get to see her for the next 3 days, he wants her close during the sessions. Then, during the study session, the three smugs mock the others for studying like bookworm losers, but when Chizuru notices Juliet, he joins the study group. Then, Hasuki pops up in her tutor form, looking like the naughty teacher male students would love to stay in detention for, and hands everyone mock exams to complete. Romeo initially hopes to impress Juliet with good results, but he barely reaches the first question before falling asleep, and Hasuke forces his eyes open with the same device in a clockwork orange. Meanwhile, Chizuru suggests cheating with his phone and argues they should focus on passing by any means possible. But the second Juliet calls cheating pathetic, Chizuru dramatically destroys his own phone and agrees that cheaters are losers. As the session continues, Juliet notices Romeo never once complains under Hasuki's harsh tutoring, and Romeo explains that Hasuki cares more about their grades than anyone else, which is why every black dog respects and listens to her. After the study session ends, Romeo helps Juliet sneak out through a sewer tunnel, and she admits that she enjoyed the group studying together, since the white cats never do anything similar. Once she leaves, Hasuki approaches Romeo, and he thanks her for the lesson, saying her help will let him pass the exams. Hearing that makes her smile, relieved that Romeo seems back to his normal self. Confused, Romeo asks what she means, and Hasuki explains that while she doesn't always understand his strange behavior, she knows he has been hiding things from her. Her words make Romeo realize he's keeping a major secret from one of his closest friends, but he insists that nothing is going on. After Hasuke walks away, Chartreux suddenly appears from the shadows, pinches Romeo's cheek, and warns him not to be reckless enough to bring Juliet into the dorm again. She also points out how Romeo is playing with two absolute bombshells in Juliet and Hasuke, but defends himself, saying Hasuke is his best friend and the person he trusts most. But when Chartreux reminds him that he's still hiding the truth from her, Romeo brushes it off by claiming everyone has secrets. But deep down, he knows revealing the truth could destroy his friendship with Hasuke, since her loyalty to the black dogs runs deeper than when your daddy was inside your mother. Later that night, Hasuki works on the next day's study materials when Chizuru wanders in, still awake. He offers her an apple before confronting her directly, saying he knows the real reason she started these study sessions is Romeo, due to her love for him. Hasuki admits it, and when Chizuru asks why she likes someone as hopeless as Romeo, she explains that she used to be shy, but Romeo's blunt honesty helped her become more confident and open. Now, she wants to support him the same way he once supported her. Unbeknownst to them, Romeo overhears everything, and when Chizuru leaves, he confronts Hasuke and admits that he heard her confession. Since the truth is already out, Hasuke simply smiles and tells him plainly that she loves him. Hearing this, Romeo knows that he can't hide anymore, so he tells Hasuke everything about his relationship with Juliet and even shows her the rosary Juliet gave him. He apologizes and asks her to accept the truth, even if it means rejecting her feelings. Suddenly, Hasuke screams the news to the whole dorm, and Romeo instantly covers her mouth, managing to stop the damage. But then, Hasuke hugs him tightly before throwing a white cloth over him and reminding him of the black dog's code of never falling in love with the white cats. And since he broke that code, she orders him to turn himself into Swiss cheese with a blade. When Romeo begs for mercy, Hasuke grabs a nearby decorative katana and chases him herself. Romeo quickly realizes how foolish he was to think she would calmly accept the situation. During the chaotic pursuit, two of the three stooges get caught in the crossfire and somehow end up with their clothes completely shredded. Romeo eventually escapes by diving out a window, where Juliet spots him outside being chased by an enraged Hasuke wielding a sword. The chase carries them deep into the forest until Romeo ends up hanging helplessly from a tree branch. Juliet finds him there, and he hurriedly explains the entire disaster, which surprises Juliet to hear that he told Hasuke the truth. Moments later, Hasuke arrives, and seeing Romeo and Juliet together only pushes her over the edge. She charges at them, but Chartreuse suddenly intervenes, blocking Hasuke's blade with her foot. When Juliet asks why she is there, Chartreuse reveals she has known about their relationship all along. However, after Romeo puts Juliet in danger, she declares she isn't here to protect Romeo, but to punish him. Now pursued by two hot and scary creamy babes, Romeo grabs Juliet and sprints deeper into the woods until they reach a dead end at a cliffside. With nowhere left to run, Romeo bitterly mocks himself, saying his dream of changing the world means nothing if he can't even change his friend's heart. But Juliet refuses to let him give up, and tells him to stop running and face the problem, reminding him that if he managed to change her, then he can change anything. As Hasuke charges again and swings at his head, Romeo tells her he still wants to remain friends, no matter how she feels, and the blade hits him, but only lightly wounds him because it turns out to be a replica. Romeo knew all along that Hasuke never truly wanted to hurt him, and that realization breaks Hasuke completely. She collapses into tears, telling Romeo she hates him. Suddenly, Juliet loses her footing and slips off the cliff. Without hesitation, Romeo jumps after her despite not knowing how to swim, and both Hasuke and Chartreuse immediately dive in after them. In the end, Hasuke rescues Romeo while Chartreuse saves Juliet. Furious, Hasuke demands to know why Romeo jumped when he can't even swim, and Romeo says that he simply wanted to save Juliet. Hearing that makes Hasuke fully understand that Romeo will never return her feelings, so she cries her heart out, and Romeo lets her. Next morning, Romeo wakes up back in his dorm, relieved to realize Hasuke hasn't exposed his secret to the others. When she finally appears, she acts as cheerful as ever, smiling normally on the surface. But deep down, she has accepted the painful truth that she will only be Romeo's best friend, and nothing more. A few months into their relationship, Romeo decides it's finally time to ask Juliet for something he has always wanted from her, and Juliet thinks that it's something involving her cheeks and throat, only to be completely thrown off when Romeo simply asks if he can try a homemade bento made by her. Relieved but still determined, Juliet confidently accepts, claiming that preparing something as simple as lunch is no challenge for a noble lady like herself.
Are you sure about that?
However, Juliet quickly discovers that confidence alone doesn't translate into cooking skill. Having never cooked before, she struggles badly in the kitchen. When the dorm's chef offers to help, Juliet stubbornly refuses, which ends horribly, leaving her with no choice but to cheat. Once the bento is finally prepared, Romeo eagerly gets ready to dig in, but Chartreuse swoops in, snatches the lunchbox, and declares that she'll be the one to enjoy it instead. Her escape attempt immediately goes wrong when her tights snag on a tree branch, sending the bento flying through the air. The chaos only escalates when it lands directly on Scott's head, and Juliet rushes over to recover it, but Scott completely misreads the situation and assumes Juliet personally made lunch for him. Right on cue, Romeo appears and kicks Scott in the head to reclaim the lunchbox, and Scott accuses him of trying to steal it, which Romeo openly admits, and the two immediately start brawling over the prized meal. Romeo eventually gains the upper hand and mocks Scott for being weak, but that only enrages him further. Scott retaliates, declaring that Juliet was the one who saved him from a darker path in life, and before he can fully launch into a dramatic backstory, Romeo cuts him off by dropping an entire tree on him. The attack sends the bento flying again, and Romeo desperately chases after it, but the lunchbox ultimately lands inside the pig pen, where the pigs completely devour everything inside. Romeo stares at the empty lunchbox in defeat, and feeling guilty for wasting Juliet's effort, Romeo begins apologizing. But Juliet unexpectedly apologizes first. She confesses that she didn't actually make the bento herself, and the dorm's chef prepared it because she has no real cooking skills. This revelation makes Romeo realize they all nearly fought to the death over a fake lunch, but Juliet shyly reveals that there is one thing she did make herself, which is her failed homemade cookies. She offers them to Romeo, who happily accepts, and the moment he takes a bite, the taste nearly knocks him out. But when he notices Juliet looking close to tears, he forces himself to keep eating while pretending they're delicious. Romeo laughs and admits he's surprised Juliet has such relatable struggles, since she always seems flawless, and Juliet explains that she constantly pressures herself to appear perfect. Romeo reassures her, telling her she doesn't have to be so tense when she's around him. His words comfort her, and she promises that one day she'll make him a real bento with her own hands. As summer approaches, preparations begin for the school's annual sports festival, and while everyone else is excited, Romeo dreads the event because of his humiliating failure in last year's final race. Then, Chizuru and the goons pop up, already planning ways to cheat the race, and Chizuru mocks Romeo by bringing up last year's embarrassing loss. While the boys fool around, Hasuke quietly steals glances at Romeo, and her friends quickly notice and tell her about the jinx, claiming that whoever wins the festival MVP gets to choose someone for the final dance, and dancing together supposedly guarantees the two will eventually become a couple. Seeing that Hasuke is interested, her friends immediately seize the opportunity and ask Romeo if he would dance with Hasuke if she wins MVP. Though Hasuke panics and tries to stop them, Romeo casually agrees, seeing it as nothing more than an innocent dance, which leaves Hasuke completely flustered. Later, while waiting for Juliet, Romeo hears Scott leading the white cats in a marching song, openly mocking the black dogs for smelling like piss and gravy, and Romeo gets offended, so he jumps Scott, starting another fight. Scott taunts him about last year's failure, but before Romeo can retaliate, someone suddenly blocks him with one hand. To everyone's surprise, the person stopping him is a girl named Somali, the devoted follower of Abby, a prideful noble from the Western faction that opposes Juliet's group. Abai introduces himself with the same level of confidence Erwin Smith showed when leading his men to death, bragging about his popularity with women, while Somali proudly calls herself his lover. Abai immediately dismisses her, bluntly telling her she means nothing to him, which Somali refuses to accept. Abai then turns his attention to Juliet, attempting to charm her by suggesting their families should unite through a relationship. But Juliet instantly shuts him down, bluntly stating that she has no interest in bozos like him who gets passed around like a blunt. Her rejection irritates both Scott and Romeo for completely different reasons, and so Molly senses the tension and attacks Romeo, but Juliet steps in to block her. She declares that if anyone wants to settle things, they should save it for the sports festival. That night, Romeo still doesn't understand why everyone is so obsessed with the festival. An arrow suddenly lands nearby carrying a message from Juliet, asking him to meet her early the next morning to practice for the three-legged race. The next morning, when he meets Juliet, he immediately compliments her appearance, which she quietly appreciates. They tie their legs together to begin training, but Romeo gets flustered almost instantly from being so close to her. Once they start running, they realize their height difference makes coordination difficult, so to help balance, Juliet places Romeo's hand on her waist, which nearly short-circuits his brain. Trying to stay focused, Romeo asks why Juliet is so invested in winning, and Juliet explains that earning MVP would increase her recognition and indirectly benefit her father's reputation as well. Realizing how much this means to her, Romeo finally gets serious and begins putting real effort into their practice. After training, Juliet brings up Romeo's disastrous performance at the previous festival, when his mistake in the 100-meter dash cost his dorm the win. She tells him she believes he can do better this time, making Romeo realize that this practice session wasn't just for her benefit, and it was also meant to help him regain confidence. Juliet then proposes a challenge that if either of them wins the MVP, they can ask the other for anything they want, and the wager reignites Romeo's competitive spirit. On the day of the sports festival, the event begins with opening remarks from the housemasters of both dorms, and there, the rivalry between the black dogs and white cats erupts, with both sides loudly declaring they'll be the ones to claim victory. The first match is tug of war, and representing the black dogs at the front are Romeo and Tosa, while Scott and Abby lead the white cats. At the first pull, the black dogs gain the advantage and win the opening clash, but Abby remains calm and tells Scott not to panic, since their true strength is positioned at the rear of the team, which turns out to be Somali. With powers like the Powerpuff Girls, Somali almost single-handedly shifts momentum in favor of the White Cats. But just as the White Cats are about to win, Abby casually praises her performance, and the compliment completely flusters Somali, causing her to lose focus and let go of the rope. The sudden mishap sends the White Cats tumbling, handing the Black Dogs the victory. The next event is the obstacle course, where Chizuru takes point for the Black Dogs. At the first challenge, he secretly scatters sharp objects across the course, hoping to sabotage Chartreau. Instead, she reveals that rather than running herself, she gets her slaves to carry her in a chair while they complete the course for her. Chizuru is outraged and immediately complains to the referee, but the protest goes nowhere, and the White Cats win the round, leaving Chizuru furious after losing to someone who just got more dough than him. The competition continues with escalating intensity as both dorms trade wins in event after event. The three-legged race, balloon challenge, and sprint races all blur together in a non-stop series of rivalries until only the final rounds remain. During a short break, Romeo meets up with Juliet, and she tells him that her mother is watching from the stands, and more than anything, she wants to prove herself worthy of becoming MVP for both her parents' sake. Romeo jokingly asks if this means he should introduce himself to her mother, and to his surprise, Juliet doesn't reject the idea at all and even encourages it. The next major event is the pole toppling contest, and Juliet climbs for the Black Dogs, determined to secure points, but Abby sends Somali after her. Somali rapidly scales the structure and deliberately shifts the balance, making it dangerously unstable. At first, it looks like a normal attempt to win, but Somali's true objective is sabotage. She secretly shows Juliet the sole of her shoe, revealing the hidden weapon she intends to use. The White Cats claim victory in the round and take a 50-point lead, but Juliet walks away limping, and when Chartreau notices her condition and asks about it, Juliet simply smiles and hides the pain. The mixed relay begins next. As the male runners pass their batons, Juliet prepares to face Hasuke in the girls' leg of the race. Before the handoff, Hasuke declares that she refuses to lose to Juliet, and Juliet calmly answers that she feels exactly the same. The batons are exchanged, and both girls explode into a full sprint, and Hasuke initially pulls ahead, but Juliet pushes past her through sheer determination and edges closer to the finish line. Just as victory seems guaranteed, Juliet suddenly drops her baton and collapses onto the track, and heavy silence falls over the field. Romeo instinctively rushes forward to help her, but Chartreau stops him, warning that publicly helping Juliet would damage her reputation and image. Seeing Juliet vulnerable, Abby seizes the moment. He openly mocks her in front of everyone, framing her collapse as proof that she is too weak to lead the White Cats. Slowly, murmurs begin spreading through the crowd, with some starting to view Juliet as a liability. Furious, Romeo slams his fist into a nearby wall hard enough to silence the chatter, and Chartreau confronts Abby directly, questioning his actions. Though he pretends innocence, Chartreau coldly promises he'll regret what he has done. Outside the infirmary, Romeo and Chartreau wait together, and Chartreau reveals what she witnessed. She explains that Somali intentionally stepped on Juliet's injured leg and is certain Abby orchestrated the entire scheme to cripple Juliet's standing and seize leadership of the White Cats. But without evidence, they can't formally accuse him. After hearing this, Romeo's frustration reaches its limit. Standing outside the clinic door, knowing Juliet is inside and likely in tears, he calls out to her, telling her that he will make Abby pay for everything. The final event is the cavalry battle, and teams scramble across the field, trying to collect tags and eliminate opponents. However, Romeo is facing issues with his own teammate, Chizuru, who stubbornly refuses to cooperate. Meanwhile, Hasuke's squad dominates early on, collecting tags efficiently and overwhelming White Cat teams. But Abby puts his true plan into action, and Black Dog competitors begin dropping out unexpectedly. With the opposing teams weakened, Abby takes the opportunity to eliminate Hasuke's group. Soon, only Romeo and Chizuru remain surrounded by White Cats, and even in this situation, Chizuru still refuses teamwork. Just as things seem hopeless, Juliet appears in disguise as Julio from the sidelines and cheers for Romeo, and her support instantly motivates him. At the same time, Chizuru mishears the encouragement and assumes it's directed at him. Fueled by completely different interpretations, the two suddenly lock in like Goku and Vegeta. Romeo and Chizuru make an absurd comeback, tearing through opponents until they finally stand face to face with Abby's elite squad. Abby remains confident, until two of his own teammates suddenly collapse, and he realizes that Chizuru's Bazo buddies secretly rejoined the battle and struck when no one was looking. Abby protests, but Chizuru cuts him off with a grin, revealing that he already discovered Abby's cheating scheme of drugging the Black Dog's drinks to weaken them. Rather than report him, Chizuru says he preferred crushing Abby personally, So Molly rushes to defend Abby and launches a vicious kick at Chizuru, but Romeo intercepts her, and he reveals the concealed object in her shoe. Enraged, Romeo charges forward and lands a direct punch squarely into Abby's face, sending him flying. The referee prepares to end the match and declare victory, but Romeo stops them, announcing that he still has one final opponent to face. He calls out to Juliet, declaring her the true final challenge, and Juliet immediately understands that this is not just about winning the sports festival, but it's about restoring her pride after everything Abby did to humiliate her. Despite her injury, Juliet rises and walks back onto the field, and with Chartreux by her side, she prepares for one final showdown, fighting not just for victory, but for dignity, revenge, and everything she has worked to protect. Then, Romeo makes the first move, throwing a punch toward Juliet, but despite her injured leg, she blocks it and retaliates with a headbutt. As more than anything, Juliet is determined to earn victory through her own strength and prove herself fairly. The clash between the two captains quickly becomes the center of attention, and for the first time all day, the audience gets to witness Juliet performing at her absolute peak, and the crowd erupts with cheers, rallying behind her. As the battle drags on, exhaustion begins catching up to both of them, and realizing they only have enough energy left for one final exchange, Romeo and Juliet prepare to settle everything in a single decisive move. Romeo nearly secures the win, but at the last second Juliet dodges, causing Romeo to accidentally blunder and touches the spot most soft and squishy to her, completely stunning the crowd. Juliet freezes in embarrassment, and Romeo collapses on the spot due to how much it feels like a pudding. That bizarre ending hands the White Cats the victory, and Juliet is crowned MVP of the entire sports festival, while Romeo lies defeated on the field as Chizuru and the rest of the Black Dogs glare at him with utter disappointment. They dramatically declare that, after fumbling so badly in the final match, he is no longer fit to lead them. Later that evening, the school hosts an after-party dance, and Scott wants to find Juliet so he can ask her to dance and fulfill the famous MVP superstition. But Chartreux appears and reminds him of their earlier bet that if he lost, he would have to shave his head. Scott immediately tries to escape, but Chartreux already has a pink razor prepared and drags him away while thinking which hair part should be shaved. Meanwhile, Romeo sits outside by himself, still wallowing in shame after his loss, and Juliet approaches him. When Romeo starts apologizing for the creamy incident, Juliet quickly stops him, making it clear she would rather not discuss her jugs getting jiggled. Romeo then asks why she isn't at the dance celebrating her MVP, and Juliet admits that she actually slipped away because she wants Romeo to be her dance partner instead. Completely unaware of the meaning behind the MVP superstition, Romeo casually agrees and happily invites her to dance. As they dance together, Juliet reflects on everything Romeo did for her during the festival, especially how fiercely he stood up for her against Abby. Smiling to herself, she joins him wholeheartedly while secretly hoping the superstition really does come true. A month later, both dorm prefects gather in the school meeting room to review the events of the festival. The Black Dogs accuse the White Cats of cheating because of Abby's actions, but the White Cats refuse to cooperate. Tensions quickly rise, with each side trading complaints. The White Cats counter by claiming that if the Black Dogs have a problem with one of their members, then they also have an issue with one especially troublesome Black Dog, which is Romeo. While all of this is happening, Romeo is bedridden in the dorm after getting sick while trying to make up for his past mistakes. Hasuki is left taking care of him, and as Romeo calls out to Juliet wail asleep, Hasuki quietly looks saddened, knowing she will never truly hold that place in his heart. Then, the others call Hasuki away, leaving Romeo alone in his room. Hours later, Romeo opens his eyes to find Juliet standing there in disguise, and this girl in sussy boy disguise explains that she came because she wants to take care of him herself. While tidying his messy room, Juliet accidentally stumbles across Romeo's stash of premium gooning material magazines, and Romeo instantly panics, desperately insisting that they are not his, but that another Black Dog gave them to cheer him up and help him release his pent-up stress. He awkwardly tries to reassure Juliet that she's the only pair of cheeks he cares about, which leaves her blushing before she quickly excuses herself to go find food for him. Instead of finding the kitchen immediately, Juliet ends up wandering through the Black Dog dorm, taking in how massive the place is. Eventually, she reaches the dining hall and grabs an apple for Romeo, but on her way back, Chizuru intercepts her. When Juliet explains the food is for Romeo, Chizuru immediately steals and eats the apple, refusing to let someone he considers a pathetic bozo receive any special treatment. Growing suspicious, he begins interrogating Juliet about her identity, trying to determine whether she is really male or female, but Juliet throws a drink at him in panic and blitzes away. She accidentally enters the girls' bath area, triggering complete chaos among the girls there, who think she's a dude who's there to tickle his pickle to their melons. Soaked, flustered, and exhausted, Juliet eventually returns to Romeo's room, and Romeo lends her some spare clothes while awkwardly trying not to look as she changes. Just as things finally calm down, another black dog student knocks on the door asking for his magazine collection back. Juliet quickly hides under Romeo's blanket, landing right on top of him, and her positioning causes Romeo's fever to spike, and his blood rushing downwards, knocking him right back out. While unconscious, Romeo dreams of his mother softly singing him a lullaby from his childhood, and when he wakes up, he realizes that Juliet is singing the exact same melody beside him. Curious, Romeo asks where she learned it, and Juliet explains that the lullaby has been passed down for generations in the West. Realizing Romeo is already recovering, and Romeo thanks her for coming all this way just to care for him. To his surprise, Juliet then confesses that she didn't come because he was sick, but that she came simply because she wanted to see him. And hearing that alone is enough to send Romeo's temperature soaring once more. Elsewhere, two sisters from the Black Dogs Prefect Committee are quietly discussing a student who recently caught their interest. The Black Dog's very own, Romeo. Later on, the twin sisters, Ko Chao and Teria, spend time studying in the library when nearby students begin talking excitedly about an upcoming festival. The moment people notice the twins sitting among them, the mood instantly shifts, and the students get anxious, whispering in awe as they realize they're in the presence of two highly respected prefect members. Then, the twins approach Iru, the head of the Black Dog Prefects, and ask for permission to attend the festival since they want a chance to enjoy it themselves. Iru initially refuses, reminding them that prefects are meant to maintain order and protect students, not relax, so Ko Chao quickly comes up with a counter-argument, suggesting they can simply perform their duties at the festival by monitoring and dealing with troublemakers there. Seeing the logic in her idea, Iru reluctantly agrees. Elsewhere, Romeo secretly meets Juliet and brings up the festival, hoping to invite her. Juliet admits she wants to go too, but after nearly being exposed the last time she used a disguise, she refuses to risk it again. Instead, she suggests they meet privately later during the fireworks, and before anyone can notice them together, Juliet quickly leaves, leaving Romeo ecstatic. His excitement is cut short when out of nowhere, Ko Chao falls directly onto him. Romeo catches her, but in doing so accidentally grabs her melons, causing Ko Chao to immediately bite his hand in retaliation. Teria sees this as a freaky attack on her sister, and jumps onto Romeo's back, smacking him hard in the process. Hasuki rushes over after hearing the commotion, and the moment she notices the twins, she immediately bows respectfully and orders Romeo to do the same. But not knowing who these two annoying, small melon brats are, Romeo casually calls them annoying little dinguses. Hasuki quickly corrects him by formally introducing the sisters, only to discover the twins already know who Romeo is. As to them, he is already infamous as the school's troublemaker. Ko Chao asks Romeo what he was doing hiding beneath a bench moments earlier, and knowing he can't reveal about his sneaky link with Juliet, he claims that he was simply talking to ants because they are his friends. Rather than putting him in a mental asylum, the twins end up feeling oddly sympathetic toward him, while also becoming even more intrigued. Later, Romeo returns to his dorm room only to discover the twins somehow waiting inside, and they reveal that they found a rosary belonging to him, instantly putting Romeo into full panic mode. Ko Chao becomes suspicious, wondering why Romeo would own something like that and sensing there's a hidden story behind it. Romeo hurriedly snatches the item back, but in the chaos accidentally pushes down Teria like he wants to claim some creamy holes, and not wanting to face Ko Chao's anger, he immediately flees the room and locks the twins inside. Unfortunately for him, the sisters somehow escape anyway and continue chasing after him, so Romeo has no choice but to escape to the festival grounds. At the festival, the twins continue their patrol duties while also searching for Romeo. Meanwhile, Romeo is busy daydreaming about finally spending time alone with Juliet, and the moments the twins find him, he runs again, determined to juke them. Elsewhere, Juliet waits near a more secluded area at the edge of the festival, and Romeo suddenly appears from the bushes, startling her before urgently explaining that the twin prefects are after him. Suddenly, Romeo accidentally steps on a branch, making enough noise to alert the twins nearby, and he quickly drags Juliet behind your ugly mothers to hide. Still wanting to go on their festival date, Romeo and Juliet go around the place while avoiding getting caught. After dodging several close calls, they eventually squeeze themselves into a barrel to hide, and the cramped hiding spot puts them uncomfortably close together, making Romeo's magnum do a full salute. Nearby, an argument suddenly breaks out between two food stall owners, and the twins arrive and immediately defuse the situation with ease, once again proving how capable they are as prefects. Watching from hiding, Romeo begins to realize there's more to the twins than their overly serious attitudes. Deciding to test something, he leaves Juliet safely hidden in the barrel and directly challenges Ko-Chao and Teria. There, he proposes that if they can beat him in various festival games, he'll stop causing trouble, but if not, he threatens to get Lita's mark by gooning all over the festival, leaving the twins with no choice but to accept to prevent the whole place from getting creamy. For the next few hours, the three of them compete at various festival stalls, and during all of it, Ko-Chao and Teria experience genuine fun, and where they didn't have to act as prefects or authority figures, but they get to simply be students enjoying their time. Eventually, the twins win the challenge, and when Romeo announces the game is over, it leaves the twins disappointed, as they were actually hoping to keep playing longer. Romeo points out that they spend so much time obsessing over their responsibilities that they never allow themselves to enjoy ordinary school life. Before leaving, he casually tells them they can always come find him if they ever want to hang out again, and his kindness leaves both sisters flustered and wanting his glizzy. Realizing the fireworks are about to begin, Romeo suddenly remembers Juliet and sprints back to find her after he left her waiting inside the barrel for hours. When Romeo finally arrives, Juliet greets him with an icy stare, clearly annoyed by their ruined date due to the firework being already finished. However, her anger softens when she reflects on seeing Romeo helping the twins loosen up and enjoy themselves, and she appreciates seeing this more thoughtful side of him. Instead of dwelling on the failed evening, Romeo and Juliet share a smaller, simpler moment together. Hidden away near the bushes, they light a handheld sparkler and enjoy the fireworks in private, creating a small, intimate moment they treasure together. Later that night, back in the prefect dorms, Ko-Chao and Teria are still thinking about their strange but surprisingly enjoyable day with Romeo. Teria asks whether Ko-Chao thinks Romeo might participate in the upcoming seasonal prefect selection, and Ko-Chao admits that if Romeo ever joined the prefect system, his presence alone could completely disrupt the school's balance. Even so, she remains uncertain, especially while Ru remains firmly in charge. Some days later, with Juliet's birthday only a week away, Chartreux is already thinking about how to celebrate it. As she plans, Juliet steps out of the shower and casually tells her that she doesn't need anything extravagant this year, but she simply wants one favor, and Chartreux is surprised when Juliet admits that what she really wants is to spend her birthday with Romeo. At the same time, Romeo is also preoccupied with Juliet's upcoming birthday, sitting in his room while trying to figure out the perfect gift for her. His concentration is broken when Ko-Chao and Teria casually reveal that they have apparently been in his room since the previous night. Ko-Chao bluntly informs Romeo that Teria has taken an interest in him, adding that once Teria becomes curious about someone, she tends to follow them obsessively. Hearing about this creepy behavior, Romeo immediately looks for a way to escape. Ko-Chao then mentions that the twins are supposed to handle a prefect errand on Dahlia Street, and Romeo instantly sees an opportunity since Dahlia Street is full of shops. So he volunteers to take care of the errand himself, planning to secretly shop for Juliet's birthday present. Then, while browsing the shops, Romeo notices a cute cat plush displayed in a storefront window. Right as he reaches for it, Chartreux suddenly arrives and reaches for the exact same item. Neither wants to let go, and their ridiculous tug-of-war ends with the plush tearing cleanly in half. A nearby security guard rushes over to break up the commotion, but the moment he recognizes Chartreux, his tone changes completely. Concerned for her safety, he warns her that suspicious radicals have reportedly been hiding around the island, and he even offers to personally escort her for protection. Chartreux casually declines, claiming she already has an escort, and she grabs Romeo and drags him into a nearby store, where she quickly dresses him in white cat-style clothing before presenting him as her personal bodyguard. Humiliated by the whole experience, Romeo demands that Chartreux at least show some gratitude if she expects him to keep helping her, but Chartreux already knows why Romeo is there. As Juliet's longtime friend, she claims to have a much better understanding of what Juliet would actually want as a birthday gift, and being a brainless ape simp, Romeo agrees to continue shopping with her. Their first stop is a shop selling peach covers and melon holders, and Chartreux teases him by suggesting that he buys the revealing pepperoni protectors for Juliet to wear and for him to goon to, causing Romeo's imagination to spiral into freaky territory. Wanting something more wholesome, he insists on picking something cuter instead, and they end up with a blue and elegant one. After they leave, rain suddenly begins pouring down, forcing the two to take shelter. And while they're completely soaked, Chartreux notices Romeo getting flustered, seeing the drenched dual weapons she's concealing. She jokingly tells him that if he ever gives up on Juliet, she would happily take over and show him that her hips don't lie, But Romeo immediately shuts that idea down, bluntly telling her he has zero romantic interest in her. Once the rain clears, Chartreux quietly tells him their escort arrangement is officially over and starts walking away alone. As she heads back, Chartreux reflects on her life, where for most of it, people have treated her delicately, almost like royalty, and never truly challenging her. That changed when Juliet first scolded her and treated her like a normal person, which eventually led to their friendship. And now, Romeo has joined that very short list of people who treat her honestly, which is an idea that makes her smile. Her reflection is interrupted when a group of radicals suddenly attempts to abduct her after recognizing her status. Chartreux quickly takes down one attacker with an impressive kick, but another closes in. Just then, Romeo suddenly appears. One of the radicals briefly assumes Romeo might help them, only for Romeo to immediately knock him out instead. Confused, Chartreux asks why he bothered helping her, and Romeo says that if something happened to Chartreux, Juliet would definitely be heartbroken, and he doesn't want to see his beloved's tears. Hearing that, Chartreux bursts into laughter, calling herself even more foolish than Romeo, amazed by how absurdly far he's willing to go for Juliet. Later, Chartreux openly admits that she feels a little jealous, saying that even though she has known Juliet for much longer, Juliet chose to spend her birthday with Romeo instead of her. She realizes that there are sides of Juliet only Romeo gets to see, parts of Juliet that even her childhood friend will never fully know. While that does frustrate her, seeing how genuinely happy Juliet has become makes her accept it. Before leaving, Chartreux wishes Romeo luck in both finding the right gift and making Juliet happy. She hands him a small bag before walking away, and when Romeo looks inside, he is completely confused by what's in it and has no idea how he's supposed to deal with it. On his way back to the dorm, an arrow suddenly pops up, and in it is a message from Juliet, asking him to meet her in the library. Romeo rushes there and finds Juliet waiting for him in private. She directly asks if he can spend her birthday with her, and on the inside, Romeo is screaming Eureka from the top of his lungs, but he does his best to lock in, stay cool, and agrees. Juliet also makes him promise not to cause chaos at her birthday, reminding him of a previous incident where he and his goons creamed her on her birthday, which Romeo remembers and embarrassingly agrees. Admitting he still has no idea what kind of gift she wants, Romeo asks her directly, and Juliet reveals that what she really wants is a matching pair of accessories. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the school, Ko Chao and Teria continue investigating Romeo's mysterious rosary, and their investigation is interrupted when Iru enters and demands to know exactly what they've uncovered. Back with Romeo, he returns to his room and is surprised to see Hasuki peeking through the doorway. When he steps inside, he is shocked to find with godly aura there right behind the twins, Iru, who Romeo instantly recognizes as his older brother. As the Black Dogs' head prefect, Iru directly confronts Romeo over his reputation as a troublemaker. He presents the rosary he possesses and demands an explanation for why he has it. Hasuki quickly jumps in and claims the rosary actually belongs to her. She explains that she simply wanted something decorative, and Romeo bought it for her as a favor. Iru isn't convinced and immediately shifts to the pepperoni cover Romeo was also carrying, and Hasuki gets disgusted at him, so she refuses to rescue him, leaving Romeo looking like a total degenerate. Iru points out how Romeo has been acting unusually for weeks, and he bluntly accuses Romeo of secretly being involved with a girl from the White Cats. Iru warns his little bro that he would be labeled a traitor, and Romeo will be removed from both the school and the family entirely, saying Romeo's reckless behavior could disgrace their family name. Hasuki tries to defend Romeo again, but Iru immediately shuts her down as well, warning that helping Romeo could make her an accomplice. Not wanting her dragged into his problems, Romeo insists that Hasuke has nothing to do with any of it. Trying to calm the situation, Romeo places a hand on Iru's shoulder and asks him to trust him for once, but Iru grabs Romeo's collar and reminds him that he has already covered for Romeo multiple times before, and his patience is getting thinner than an anorexic model. At that moment, Teria suddenly wraps herself around Romeo from behind in an attempt to protect him, and Iru tells her not to interfere, but both Teria and Ko Chao plead with him not to escalate things. Seeing that, Iru releases Romeo, and declares that Romeo will be under strict surveillance for the next week, and until he is fully convinced that Romeo has corrected his behavior, he won't be allowed any freedom. That instantly makes Romeo panic, since Juliet's birthday is exactly 1 week away. Meanwhile, over at the White Cat's dorm, Juliet spends time baking cookies, and she finally succeeds in making a batch that turns out well. The dorm chef praises her persistence, and Juliet proudly shares the cookies with Chartreux and Scott. Chartreux immediately teases her, saying it's obvious Juliet only learned to bake because she wants to give the cookies to Romeo for her birthday, while hoping that he will eat her cookie jar as well. Suddenly, someone mentions spotting Romeo walking around with the prefects, and both Juliet and Chartreux quickly turn their attention toward the scene. Seeing Romeo nervously trailing behind Iru immediately sets off alarm bells for Juliet, who has never seen Romeo look that intimidated before. Just then, a group of brats accidentally hits Iru with a paper airplane, and out of fear, they get ready to get spanked. But Iru calmly picks up the paper, refolds it, and tosses it back. Ko Chao points out that Iru may be intimidating, but he has his own quiet kindness. Romeo immediately disagrees, and explains that while Iru is kind and patient with everyone else, he is completely different with him. Romeo reveals that when they were younger, Iru would discipline him harshly whenever he misbehaved, leaving Romeo genuinely intimidated by him to this day, making Iru less of a brother and more of a childhood trauma in human form. Over the next few days, Romeo is forced into a strict schedule under Iru's supervision, enduring etiquette lessons and endless training sessions. Even when he passes by Juliet on campus, Romeo is too afraid of Iru watching him to even acknowledge her. Eventually, Iru drags Romeo to kendo practice, and on the way there, Hasuki overhears White Cat's students excitedly discussing Juliet's upcoming birthday celebration, something she knows Romeo desperately wants to attend. At kendo practice, Iru absolutely dominates Romeo, treating his little bro like he's target practice, and Hasuke struggles to watch Romeo like this. Afterward, she helps Romeo walk back while warning him that the White Cats are all focused on Juliet's birthday preparations. She suggests he stay quiet and avoid drawing more attention until Iru's suspicions cool down. To her surprise, Romeo reveals he already has a plan, and he explains that he's simply waiting for the right moment when Iru lowers his guard so he can sneak away to meet Juliet. Worried that his brother might crucify him, Hasuke reminds Romeo that if he gets caught with Juliet now, expulsion is almost guaranteed, and she admits she's scared of what school life would be like without him around. Romeo assures her, promising that he won't get expelled, and he definitely won't leave her behind. That night, believing Iru is asleep, he sneaks out of the dorm and heads toward the fountain to meet Juliet. But just as he reaches the gate, Iru suddenly appears in front of him and orders him to stop, saying that Romeo is far too predictable for this to ever work. Romeo refuses to give up and swings at him, but Iru effortlessly blocks the punch and gives Romeo the double Big Mac Whopper special, knocking him out like he's diabetic. Calling him weak, Iru drags Romeo to a nearby storage building, commenting that the place reminds him of old times. He then locks Romeo inside, believing that finally settles the matter. But what Iru doesn't know is that Romeo already anticipated this. Hours earlier, Romeo secretly asked Ko Chao and Teria for help, explaining that he fully expected to get locked up and needed someone to break him out. Ko Chao is hesitant about the request, while Teria insists that they should support him, arguing that protecting students is their duty. And since Romeo is clearly standing up to his overbearing brother, they should help. Back in the present, the twins free Romeo, allowing him to make one final desperate run while bruised and battered, and Romeo rushes through the night to find Juliet. However, his injuries begin catching up to him, and before he can properly continue, Romeo's strength gives out and he collapses in the forest. When he wakes up, he finds himself resting his head on Juliet's lap, and she explains that she already knows what's happening. After asking Hasuke, she learned that Iru suspects their relationship and that Romeo could actually be expelled because of it. Seeing Romeo covered in bruises and injuries fills Juliet with guilt, and she tearfully tells him that what matters most to her isn't any birthday gift or celebration, but it's knowing that he is safe. Juliet begins apologizing over and over, crying as she admits that as long as they stay together, Romeo will probably keep getting hurt because of her. Romeo refuses to accept that, and tells her that they have nothing to be ashamed of and no reason to feel guilty just because they love each other. Hearing that only makes Juliet cry harder, and she tightly hugs him, still apologizing through tears while Romeo holds her close. On Juliet's birthday, the White Cats are busy organizing an extravagant celebration in her honor, with Scott and the others going all out to make it memorable. Suddenly, Romeo appears and immediately sends Scott flying out of the way, determined to find Juliet after their earlier failed attempt to celebrate together. Once he spots her, Romeo chases after Juliet without caring who might see them together, and corners her so they can finally talk face to face. Juliet panics, worried that if Iru catches them together again, Romeo could really be expelled this time. Overwhelmed by fear, she shoves him away. Romeo falls hard to the ground, and Juliet, clearly emotional, shouts that she doesn't want to see him anymore before running off. Her words hit him harder than the fall itself, leaving him completely crushed. Not long after, Hasuki happens to walk by with one of her friends and accidentally steps on the defeated Romeo lying on the ground like a discarded rag. She helps him up and brings him to the school sanatorium. There, Romeo vents everything that happened, and Hasuke bluntly calling him an absolute idiot for how he handles things. Romeo admits he has no motivation for classes anymore, but instead of scolding him like usual, Hasuki suggests they skip school together for the day. Their first stop is the dorm's game room, and while Romeo is checked out, Hasuki insists he at least try distracting himself by playing billiards. There, his attempt at a shot goes horribly wrong, and he accidentally hits a different, more squishy ball. Embarrassed by the incident, Hasuki quickly suggests they move on to something else. Next, they visit a sheep farm, and because Hasuki happens to have snacks in her pockets, she instantly gets mobbed by a flock of sheep. Later, the two head to the bell tower, where they sit together overlooking the school grounds. While admiring the scenery, Hasuke leans to a wake wall and almost falls, but Romeo reacts quickly and catches her around the waist before she can fall. Feeling his hand around her waist, Hasuki's heart starts pounding, and she literally smacks herself in the head to regain composure. Once she calms down, she quietly asks Romeo if he would come back to this spot with her again someday. However, the moment reminds Romeo of Juliet, and his mood immediately darkens again. Meanwhile, back at the White Cat's dorm, Juliet silently stares at the rosary Romeo gave her. Chartreux enters and reminds her that her birthday party is about to begin. She quickly notices a plate of cookies sitting nearby and asks Juliet why she didn't give them to Romeo earlier. Juliet tries to hand the cookies to Chartreux instead, but Chartreux refuses, knowing that something happened between Romeo and Juliet. Unable to hold her feelings, Juliet tearfully explains that every time she and Romeo are together, he ends up hurt because of her. She admits she panicked, lost sight of what mattered, and now fears they might not be able to stay together at all. Seeing Juliet so vulnerable, Chartreux gently hugs her in an attempt to comfort her. Back with Romeo, he boldly claims that he's now in a good mood, but Hasuke instantly calls out the obvious lie and starts crying. She admits that no matter how hard she tries, she feels like she can never be enough to make Romeo genuinely happy. Seeing Hasuki cry because of him causes Romeo to spiral into guilt, and he starts physically beating himself up, and Hasuki quickly stops him before he can continue. At that exact moment, Chartreux suddenly appears out of nowhere, and tells Hasuki that if she truly wanted Romeo for herself, she should have acted sooner instead of letting Juliet get there first. She then hands Romeo the cookies Juliet made and heads off toward the party, reminding him that it is still Juliet's birthday. When Romeo takes a bite of the cookies, his eyes immediately water. Realizing Juliet went through the effort of making these for him despite everything makes him emotional. Motivated again, Romeo turns to Hasuki and asks if she wants to help him carry out their creamy tradition for Juliet's birthday. Then, over at the White Cat's mansion, a panicked student suddenly bursts in to report that the black dogs have invaded the dorm. Juliet immediately rushes toward the exit, only to be stopped by Kate, the White Cat's head representative, who blocks her path. At the same time, Romeo and several black dogs storm the White Cat's residence armed with pies, and Romeo imagines all the ways Juliet might react once he finally finds her. Downstairs, an all-out pie war erupts between the invading black dogs and defending White Cats, turning the first floor into complete chaos. Romeo dashes upstairs to continue his search, but is suddenly intercepted by Molly, who immediately latches onto him in a tight hug. Standing beside her is Abi, who looks like his wife left him and took his dough after having been kicked out of the dorm because of his actions. Thinking quickly, Romeo tricks Molly by claiming Abi is jealous of how affectionately she's hugging him. Molly instantly redirects her attention and hugs Abi instead, giving Romeo the opening he needs to escape. Then, Romeo is ambushed by several White Cat students trying to stop him. Before they can fully corner him, Kate suddenly reappears and unexpectedly helps Romeo slip away into the attic. Romeo immediately senses something suspicious about Kate, and this weird, albino, freaky bozo introduces himself like he's this show's main character, which Romeo completely ignores in favor of trying to flee again. Before Romeo can escape, Kate casually mentions that he knows exactly where Juliet is. Just then, more White Cats and another prefect named Sieber pop up, and she scolds Kate for wasting time and tells him to stop playing around. Kate then formally reveals himself as the White Cat's official representative. Sieber informs Romeo that his black dog allies downstairs have already been defeated and advises him to surrender while he still can. Elsewhere, Juliet has been locked inside a room, desperately trying to escape. Thinking back on everything Romeo has sacrificed for her, she stares out the window and finally makes up her mind about what she needs to do next. At that same time, Romeo finds himself cornered inside the White Cat's dorm, with Kate completely overpowering him in combat. Every attempt Romeo makes to fight back gets effortlessly shut down, and Kate practically toys with him while demonstrating just how outclassed he is. In that moment, Romeo realizes the gap between himself and fighters like Kate and Iru is like he's Gojo compared against Goku, and that if he truly wants to change the system around him, then someday he has to become strong enough to surpass both of them. Just as things look hopeless, Romeo hears a faint voice calling from outside, and he recognizes it, which regains his focus. Thinking quickly, he manages to trap Kate by tying up his legs, and without hesitation, Romeo leaps straight out of the third-floor window, stunning everyone watching. Outside, Juliet is waiting below, and as he falls, he reaches out toward her, and the lovers reunite. Romeo then scolds Juliet for recklessly putting herself in danger by showing up, and Juliet fires back, arguing that she's the one constantly worried about him because of all the reckless things he does. Romeo then finally wishes her a happy birthday properly, apologizing for everything that happened before, and promises that no matter what obstacles come between them, he'll always find a way to come see her. Hearing that, Juliet starts lightly hitting him while calling him an idiot, though her own emotions betray her. She admits she's just as foolish as he is, as despite everything, she confesses that hearing Romeo had invaded her birthday party for her sake genuinely made her happy. From the bottom of her heart, she tells him that she loves him. The two embrace, and Juliet notices Romeo quietly crying. Watching him, she realizes that despite the massive social barriers separating their dorms, Romeo keeps finding ways to overcome every obstacle out of pure devotion to her. In that moment, Mr. Orman himself, Iru, arrives and is looking for his brother. Suddenly, Romeo and Juliet burst onto the scene together, each holding a pie. Without warning, they smash the pies into each other's faces at the same time, declaring the result a draw. Romeo proudly announces to the Black Dogs that this still counts as their victory since Juliet's birthday celebration has technically been ruined. Romeo tries to order a tactical retreat, but Iru immediately stops everyone in their tracks. Iru directly questions Romeo, asking if Juliet is the mysterious person he has been secretly meeting all along. He explains that because Romeo failed to see her the day before, he instead chose to invade on her actual birthday to be with her. Juliet immediately rejects the accusation, refusing to let herself be labeled as Romeo's lover without proof. So Iru begins laying out his evidence in the form of the rosary found in Romeo's room, the suspicious date marked on his calendar, and one final piece of evidence linking the two together, which he claims is something that should match an item Juliet owns. Juliet agrees to inspect it, and to everyone's shock, Iru reveals a very personal matching item that is similar to something Juliet owns as well. The entire room erupts into chaos, with both dorms demanding an explanation from Romeo and Juliet. As suspicion spreads through the crowd, both Romeo and Juliet are gradually separated by their respective groups, and Romeo realizes things are spiraling out of control. He prepares himself to finally confess everything publicly, but before he can say a word, Juliet suddenly throws him a real sword and formally challenges him to a duel. She loudly declares that after everything Romeo has done to humiliate her, she demands a proper sword fight, even if it costs one of them their life. Without hesitation, she launches herself at him, attacking relentlessly. Romeo is caught off guard, forced to defend himself against her, and while he hesitates, Juliet shows no mercy. Seeing this, Iru is still suspicious, convinced the fight is staged, but Juliet raises the stakes by declaring she is fighting to defend her pride and identity. At that moment, Romeo finally understands that if they want to convince everyone they could never possibly be lovers, they need to commit completely, even to the point of dying by each other's hands. So Romeo begins fighting back seriously, fully committing to the act for the sake of protecting their relationship. As everyone watches, Romeo and Juliet charge at one another one final time, and drive their blades directly toward each other's chests. That night, everyone anxiously waits outside the infirmary. After witnessing what happened, nobody can believe Romeo and Juliet could ever be romantically involved, convinced that their deadly duel proved that they hate each other's guts. In the duel, both survive thanks to their prefects intervening at the last possible moment. Once everyone leaves, Romeo and Juliet privately celebrate their success, after they had secretly positioned their rosaries to take the impact of their blades. Seeing the broken rosaries, Juliet is emotional, tears forming as the tension from everything finally crashes down on her. Seeing this, Romeo reaches into his pocket and reveals the real birthday present he had prepared all along, a pair of matching rings. As he gently places one on Juliet's finger, Romeo makes her a promise that one day he will become a prefect just like Iru and use that position to change the school system itself so they can openly be together. Overwhelmed with happiness, Juliet hugs him tightly and promises that as his lover, she will patiently wait for that day to come. If you watch this anime recap until the end, comment down, Forbidden Love. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more, watch this video on screen.